What is up, everybody? Welcome to the top 10 interior defensive linemen in the 2020 NFL Draft that is just a week away. I am so excited. Before we hop in here, please do hit that like button down below. It really helps. Share my videos, support this channel, helps get that YouTube formula going so that this video is attracted to more and more people. So if you want to support the channel, that is the best way to do it. Hit that like button down below. And also, I do ask you subscribe and consider joining me on draft night for my live reactions and analysis to each pick here on the first night of the draft on my Twitch for days 2 and 3. I know there's a lot of great options out there to absorb the draft, but I hope you consider joining me. I've spent a lot of time researching these players. I want to echo that to you guys during the draft and really just have fun with you guys. So I'm hoping to see you back here on YouTube on draft night. So this top 10 class here is interesting because you got an interesting debate at the top two guys with Kinlaw and Brown. And then you've got a nice cluster of really good athletes that we're going to talk about that's really hard to separate. So we're going to do our best to separate this group. Starting at the top, though, I don't know if it's a hot take at this point, and some people are kind of getting there with this, but I do have Javon Kinlaw slightly edging out Derrick Brown for the number one interior defensive lineman in this class, and that really just comes down to the upside as a pass rusher that Javon Kinlaw brings to the table. Now, you'll see these guys' grades are very similar. I actually do think Derrick Brown is the safer, better day one impact if that's what you're looking for, but my comp for Javon Kinlaw is Chris Jones. He has elite get off. Derrick Brown has good get off, but Javon Kinlaw just looks different. When the ball is snapped, he's got those long arms. He plays lower than Derrick Brown, in my opinion. And sounds weird, but from what I saw on tape, I actually think that Javon Kinlaw has stronger arm strength than Derrick Brown. So I think that his ability as a power rush, his tenacity as a rusher, is going to give him a higher upside in the NFL than Derrick Brown. Now, he's not quite as disciplined against the run. He's not quite as much of a heady player as Derrick Brown is, but it's not like he's dumb. Like, he does play the run well. It's just not his best asset. And there's some real highlight plays as well because of that get off, but it can get him burnt at times as well because he's really trying to shoot a gap without much discipline, and they can bounce the run the other way. So, you know, it's a bit of a preference here, but Javon Kinlaw with that Chris Jones comparison here is my number one defensive tackle in this class because of the upside as a pass rusher that is going to get a lot more weight than your run defense, because run defending defensive tackles, you can get those pretty much any time. At this date, you can still pick up Damon Harrison, who even at 31 years old or whatever he is still one of the best run-defending defensive tackles in the league. And he's on top of a list of about 15 guys that could be had pretty close to league minimum contracts at the moment. So that plays into this. Derrick Brown here is number two, though, and these guys are far and away better than anyone else in this class. And as you can see, that overall grade, 81.7 for Kinlaw, 81.5 for Derrick Brown, neck and neck, but that potential grade is a good bit different here for Derrick Brown. Now, I think he is going to be an instant starter, dominant run defender on day one. And as I've said in the past, it's not that Derrick Brown can't rush the passer. I think he even is, by some people, unfairly criticized. I still think he's a very good player, a top 15 player in this class, and a guy that, you know, he's going to get 60 pressures a season, which is good, but there's a massive cluster of really talented defensive tackles that can get 60 pressures. But can you be that super consistent 80 plus pressure guy? I think Javon Kinlaw can be that, like a Chris Jones. The only other guys in the league that can do that 80 plus pressure a year, you're looking at like Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, Fletcher, Cox. And I think Javon Kinlaw can be in that conversation. Geno Atkins was there a couple years ago as well. But yeah, Derrick Brown, you know, kind of that Akeem Hicks, Kenny Clark, like a really good pass rusher, not an elite one, but is going to push the pocket and going to be a dominant run defender. I do like Derrick Brown, guys. I just really like what Javon Kinlaw brings to the table as far as his upside is concerned. I think he's worth the gamble. And then after these top two guys, we're looking at a massive drop-off, a big cluster of really good athletes. Honestly, all of these guys, 3 through really 8 here. They're all great athletes. They all have some weaknesses here, but guys that should be able to come in and start. if not year one, like year two, and be really good players. But they're just really tough to differentiate. So we're going to do our best job here. Ross Blacklock actually comes out as number 3 because amidst this group, I feel the most safe as far as what he's going to bring to the table, and I think he's the most well-balanced. He's a good athlete, not like a great athlete, and he's strong, but not super strong. He's just incredibly balanced. He has some finesse to his game as a pass rusher. He knows when to get his hands inside and use power. He's a disciplined run defender. He's got strong arms. Like I just like a lot of elements of his game amidst this group. I feel the best about him coming in, being a kind of day one starter. Maybe not your number 1 guy, ideally. You'd put him next to a beast next to him. But a guy that can just be a good, steady starting force. So he's going to come in as the 3rd guy here, was injured his final season at TCU, so you hope that was just a fluke and not a trend. Then we've got Justin Madubuike out of Texas A&M. He's an interesting study. He's a really explosive straight-line athlete. He has really nice strength and just kind of get off. As a pass rusher, because I know he can play the run. He did a really good job playing the run. Good discipline, arm strength, could hold his blocks, all that stuff. But as far as his pass rushing, he left to me just a little bit to be desired on a consistency basis. Hard to kind of point exactly to why it is. I think one thing is he doesn't have the quickest feet, even though he's really like explosive in a straight line. So I think as far as like the finesse, kind of quickness, ability to get around guys, do stunts, like some of that stuff isn't exactly there with him. But also, I don't actually know if this is backed up by his arm length measurements, but it felt like his arms were a little shorter. I know he's 6'3", which is kind of a normal height for a defensive tackle, but it felt like he was a little shorter than that just watching him play. And it felt like there was times where he really struggled to get his hands inside for that reason. So I think there's a little bit left to be desired as a pass rusher. Not that he's a bad pass rusher, but I don't know if he's ever going to be super consistent. So my comp for him is Jonathan Allen, who physically is almost identical, both athletically and just the size comparison. And Allen has been a really good, I would say, number 2 interior defensive lineman. Has been a bit of a disappointment for the Redskins based on where they picked him. But if you took Jonathan Allen in the 2nd round, I think that's kind of what we're talking about here with Justin Madubuike. So I do like him. Then my number 5 guy, Marlon Davidson. Now, he was a kind of a total senior year breakout, which you do need to be worried about these senior breakout guys. I would love to do a study on, and I know other people have, and it's kind of backed this stuff up, but I'd love to kind of see it for myself, even though it'd be really time consuming. Anyway, guys that break out in their senior year, and how does that translate? I think that Quinnen Williams' kind of rookie disappointment after being a total final year breakout is kind of an interesting case study, and why a lot of people have started thinking about this, because he was looked at as this can't miss prospect. So anyway, that was a tangent, but Marlon Davidson, I compare him to Deshaun Hand, who a lot of people remember in 2018 was one of the defensive rookie of the year candidates, who did the same thing that you're going to have to do here with Marlon Davidson, which is convert from this kind of college edge hybrid defensive end. He actually played a lot of stand-up outside linebacker and come inside and be an interior defensive lineman. He has the athleticism to play 5-tech if you're a base 3-4 team, which, that's kind of an outdated thinking, not just running base defense, which nowadays only happens 10 to 15% of the time for most teams. But even in a base 3-4, most of the time those defensive ends are in like a 4-eye inside the tackle still. It's pretty rare to see these 3-4 ends actually outside of the tackle. But anyway, Marlon Davidson, it's just kind of a boomer bust pick, because he is a good athlete for an interior defensive lineman. He's not going to be elite, but is above average as far as speed, quickness. His strength, he's gaining some weight. We'll see how his play strength transfers. He had great strength on the edge. We'll see how that translates to the interior. But he's got to learn kind of a new position. He's got to learn how to see double teams occasionally. He needs to learn different sort of pass rushing moves, because he actually had some success rushing from the edge, but can he develop a club and swim? Can he do a spin move on the inside? Can he be a true bull rusher on the inside? It's a much different position, so it's tough to say. Deshaun Hand, my comp for him, picked it up very quickly as a rookie and found it very natural. it's almost impossible to say that for Marlon Davidson. So some people see him as a first-round prospect. I don't. I do see him as a second-round guy with a lot of upside, but I would not be spending a first-round pick on Marlon Davidson myself. And then we got Neville Gallimore. Now, his workout was really impressive and honestly surprising because he's kind of this thick. To me, I saw him as more of a run defender who just kind of is really steady, can rush the passer a little bit. But that workout kind of opened your eyes a little bit to some athletic upside that may be in there. And my comp for him is Javon Hargrave, who's been one of the grinders who's really developed on a year-to-year perspective. I think he was a third-round pick. I could be wrong about that. But Hargrave has emerged as one of the game's better pass-rushing interior guys, but wasn't always that. And I kind of look at Neville Gallimore the same way. He's got to be a good run defender, a good impact as a run defender day one. Can he develop more consistency and technique as a pass rusher? Because he clearly has the athletic traits to do it. So he's interesting, but he is going to come out last just because I don't think the pass rush was really there at Oklahoma compared to these other guys. Then we have James Lynch, who's a very similar conversation to what we had about Marlon Davidson, because James Lynch played edge in college, and he, ironically, was one of the most productive pass rushers in all of college football. Granted, it was a ton of pass rushing snaps because Baylor gets in these shootouts every week, and there's a ton of opportunities, but he was really productive. Now, that skill set is not going to translate. He's just not explosive enough to be an edge rusher in the NFL. Maybe he's Calais Campbell, but I just don't. I have a hard time projecting that. Calais Campbell's kind of this weird animal. I think James Lynch has to kick inside. He's going to be a 3-tech, a defensive end, and a base 3-4. 4-3 teams don't need to shy away from him either, though. He's a good player. I think he's going to leave a little bit to be desired as far as the physicality element right away. He needs to develop that, kind of learn how to be more physical on the interior. But I like his get-off. I like his approach as a pass rusher. He understands what he needs to do to beat guys, and he's got good quickness that I think will translate to the inside. So I like what he offers as a pass rusher. I think in year one, you might want to use him more on as a 5-tech, I should say, on first, second down, where he's going to be more comfortable against the run. But I would start getting him to work as kind of this sub-package 3 technique as a pass rusher, and I think he's got some decent upside in that role. But we'll see. He's an interesting case study, as are a lot of these guys. Then Raekwon Davis, another one of these hybrid freaks. Never really developed and reached that upside that we'd hoped to see at Alabama. I just have a hard time getting super excited about Raekwon Davis. I see him as this kind of 3-4 and even an edge player in a 4-3 that would kick inside on pass rush downs, kind of that Calais Campbell mold. I don't think he is the explosive athlete that Calais Campbell is, though, and I'm really turned off by his lack of development as a pass rusher. And honestly, his physicality on a play-to-play basis as a run defender is a little concerning. I think he defends the run very well when he lines up as an edge player, which he did a lot of at Alabama, by the way, like a true, outside the tackle 5 to even a 7 technique. He defends the run really well out there because he does move well for his size. He just isn't crazy explosive. He doesn't fire off the ball necessarily, so I don't know. I just don't see him ever becoming a star player. My comp for him is Margus Hunt, who's had a couple good years. He's this same kind of freaky build, who's not an elite athlete, but is, above average athlete for his size, most definitely. So I think he's going to be a good run defender. I don't love him, though, too much, inside the tackles. I think that a 4-3 team taking him to play edge might actually be the best fit for him, kind of in that Calais Campbell mold. But yeah, like I said, I just don't get overly excited about him, but he's an interesting player. Then Davon Hamilton, this is where that cluster stops. 3 to 8, you've got these kind of hybrid, different sizes and speeds, but they're all really good athletes. That's not Davon Hamilton. He is the run defender you want in this class. How often do we talk about how replaceable run defenders are, how you can pick up all these guys and just plug them and play them on first and second down and defend the run? That's Davon Hamilton. He's got the size, the strength, the discipline, the experience. He knows what he's going to do, but he's not going to rush the passer. He's simply not. You probably don't want him on the field on third down. My comp for him is Abry Jones, but he is the sort of 2-down run defending defensive tackle you want on day 3 in this draft. Then Malcolm Roach, back to this sort of hybrid, weird athlete projections here. He played a lot of edge in college. You're sensing a theme here. It's a lot of these guys that project with high upside at the next level are being used as edge defenders in college because these 3-3-5 defenses are all the rave right now. But I like Malcolm Roach. He is a freak athlete. He flies off the ball. He has a power rush. Not as much discipline as a run defender as you'd like. Not as much of a pass rush plan. Just kind of a wrecking ball type of guy. That's why I compared him to Maliek Collins, who's always kind of been that guy for the Cowboys for me. That kind of disruptive force on the interior. Very similar size for Malcolm Roach. So I think he can be a good player. He might just be a situational pass rusher. I don't know if he'll ever develop into a 3-down run defender. He has the strength and size to do it. But again, you're projecting a whole lot of different skill sets coming from that edge position to the interior. And, it might sound like it's a lot of hit or miss with these guys, and I think it honestly is. And I think it's kind of a result of this trend where colleges are taking the best athletes that project the best as interior guys at the next level. They're taking them and playing on them on the edge because they're still better athletes than a lot of the edge defenders they have, and they're running these weird 3-3-5 schemes anyway. It's weird. It's weird. It's kind of like 5-6 years ago, the conversation we had with all these spread quarterbacks coming in and running pro-style offenses. That's kind of gone by the wayside. Well, NFL defenses aren't running these weird 3-3-5 defenses, unlike how NFL teams are now running spread offenses. So it kind of reminds me of that. That's another tangent, but that is the top 10 interior defensive linemen. It's going to be an interesting class to see how all these guys play out, who develops into what they could be. Do these 3-3-5 college defenses produce consistently good interior defensive linemen? Or moving forward, are we going to want to take guys more like your Raekwon Williams or Leki Fotu, Robert Windsor, these more traditional interior defensive linemen? Is it going to be better to take lesser athletes that played more traditional pro-style interior defensive linemen? Or do you want to take guys like Marlon Davidson, James Lynch, Raekwon Davis, Malcolm Roach, and convert them inside it? I think it's an interesting class. I know it's a whole tangent, but I think it was worth going into what we're sort of looking at in the scope of the NFL. So we went beyond the top 10. We broke down NFL positional philosophy a little bit, which I love doing. Please do hit that like button down below if you enjoyed, if you learned something. Drop a comment down below as well if there's someone that you think was short-sighted on this list. And peace out, guys. We'll see you later.